What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time excitedly bringing you some information about the Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous beta. So, in this video, I want to talk impressions, show you guys some gameplay, of course, also talk about other things I've been enjoying, such as some of the systems. Now, some of this stuff I am going to cover in separate videos, so I might mention it here and then elaborate upon it in future videos, such as like the mythic paths or character creation. So the mythic paths, I just haven't done enough with to really give anybody like a proper explanation of, so I'm going to hold off on that for a little bit. And then character creation is actually just frankly not ready to show. Like the actual class mechanic stuff works, it's just that like all of the models and things for the visual side of character creation just aren't ready to go, frankly. I think because where they updated completely, like from the modeling system from Kingmaker, that they're having to redo all of them, which is why they're probably not in the beta here, but that's mostly just a guess at the reason why. So because of that, pretty much every character model that you can pick from, like in terms of race and stuff, only has a few different customization options at the moment, which they have explicitly said is not going to be all of them and that they're not all in there yet. So first things first, I want to talk about what Wrath of the Righteous is for Pathfinder. Wrath of the Righteous is an adventure path Paizo has published as part of the Pathfinder tabletop games. So an adventure path is essentially like 4 or 5 different modules from the tabletop game, all pulled together with a central theme and story. So in Kingmaker, you might have noticed that that game was broken up into chapters. A lot of those chapters are standalone versions of each like module that they would release individually as its own book for the tabletop game. That would span like 5 levels roughly. And Wrath of the Righteous is that same concept. That's why they call it an adventure path, and I just want to kind of familiarize people with that concept before we get started here. And moreover, Wrath of the Righteous is an adventure path where we will fight off Demon's Horde pouring out of the World Wound in our righteous 5th Crusade, which we will eventually become the commander of, which is like the big hook of Wrath of the Righteous. Let's get into it. Let's talk about some of the things that immediately struck me. So if you're unaware, of course, Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous is a CRPG from Owlcat Games, officially licensed by Paizo, the makers of Pathfinder, and it is actually going to be turn-based or real-time with pause. It will be launching that way. Turn-based was just added to the beta, whereas the real-time with pause has been worked on for a while now. And because of that, we have our top-down isometric view. First thing that struck me is the visuals have improved so much from Kingmaker, drastically so. So in Kingmaker, it was a static screen, kind of the standard Unity thing where you're like over a 2D screen. It looked essentially you're just a 3D model moving on a more 2D than you probably realize world. However, in this, they just made everything look more alive, but probably the single biggest thing that struck out to me is that you can actually turn your camera now. So you got full 360 on the camera, which is amazing. Always love to see an improvement like that. Definitely helps like visualize some of the areas. And as such, it would appear they spent a lot of time actually updating the art and things to get ready for that. So again, visual style, very striking, very happy with how it improved from Kingmaker. From there, I want to talk combat. Mostly it just feels like Kingmaker, to be honest. They are still tweaking the difficulties, again, because it's beta. But for instance, in this particular case, one of the difficulty settings literally says draft. So pretty safe to say they're not done fine-tuning the difficulties. So just kind of something to keep in mind, and that's why I'm not really going to talk about it too much. But for the most part, combat, to me at least in the real-time with pause, basically just felt like Kingmaker, which isn't a bad thing. Kingmaker's combat wasn't terrible by any means. From there, let's talk about some other stuff I liked. When it comes to the UI, much improved. It, of course, got an overhaul for the new game, so everything looks prettier, is a lot clearer. Some of the specific things I enjoyed that actually improved from Kingmaker were that the tutorials in-game are much more detailed now. So I think that's going to help a lot of new players because the tutorial will give you like step-by-step information on the metrics and the things that you're seeing in front of you, which I think if people take the time to read them is going to help people quite a bit. Because as I've mentioned several times on my channel, that's an area that CRPGs tend to struggle with in general. Something else I thought was really cool on the UI front is that in Pathfinder, stacking bonuses of the same type typically don't stack, frankly. If you have like, for instance, armor and a accessory piece that give you the same type of bonus, more often than not, they will not stack with each other. Now in Kingmaker, you just had to know that. In Wrath of the Righteous, the UI will actually tell you that. If you put on 2 pieces of armor that have that problem, it will actually pop up with an exclamation point on the armor piece and the tooltip and tell you that, hey, these two specific pieces of armor do not grant this bonus as a stacking effect, which again, I think is just really going to help people out. Now, in terms of the actual character building in this game, very much improved, especially over Kingmaker. So there are just tons of classes. Most of them have like 5 different archetypes you can choose from. Think of those like subclasses for the main class that kind of affect the overall feel of that class. So in that regard, tons of choice. Again, I would go over it more, but like the actual character creation part, in my opinion, just isn't ready to show, and I'll probably dedicate a whole video to that section. But that said, on the mechanical side of things, very pleased with it. It looks very promising. I've had a lot of fun with it. I do want to mention, circling back to the combat for a second, that mounted combat is going to be a thing in this game. I would love to show it to you here, but honestly, the animations are busted. Like, they're just not ready to go, frankly. Most of them are bugged, so it looks really weird, and it would be hard to show you like anything at all without it looking ridiculous. So I'm going to hold off, but mounted combat will, of course, be part of the final game, so very much so looking forward to that. That's going to be really cool. And for the most part, it works by picking a class that has an animal companion, which your character at, you know, the appropriate moment or level will be able to mount and then participate in combat that way. Now, in terms of races and stuff, in terms of the world map and the rest system, that stuff is pretty much the same as Kingmaker for the most part. There will be specific stuff, whereas, you know, Kingmaker was more focused on your kingdom management. This game will, of course, be more focused on your crusade against the demons of the world wound. So let's wrap this up with my overall feel for the beta, things like that, and then hopefully move on to more focus videos in the future. So far, I like what I'm seeing. The plot is very strong. I tried not to give too many spoilers in this video if that wasn't obvious. The intro is pretty strong. I liked the prologue a lot, especially. It just kind of introduces you to the concept. You're pretty much immediately thrown into a fight with demons. You like get attacked by their demon lord, Discari. You get thrown into this huge plot back and forth. It's just really cool, right? The concept of this righteous crusade against demon hordes is just kind of universally appealing, I think. So that part, really cool. I loved all the upgrades on Kingmaker, which was already itself a pretty great game. So again, just very impressed with what the beta has to show us so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing the bugs get, you know, sorted out, the game get polished, and I think people are really going to enjoy this, especially if you enjoy CRPGs. So, you know, give the channel a like, comment, subscribe, especially if you are looking forward to the more focused videos in the future, in which we will cover specific companions, things like the Mythic Path system, character creation, all that sort of stuff. For this video, I just wanted to give everybody a broad overview, and I hope it accomplished that. So with that in mind, thank you guys so much for watching. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.